Hello, everybody.
Hi, we're
Welcome to
back.
Dice Jailers. I'm Jordan.
I'm Bjorn.
Right, I stopped mirroring my video, so now everything to Bjorn is this way.
I'm on one of the sides. We don't know.
Yep. Thank you all for bearing with us for the week break that we needed because, good God, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely needed it. You guys probably needed it too.
yeah. Uh,
But we missed you, all of you.
very yes. It's been a lot. Everything's been a lot. Life's been a lot. Like I had to I had a bit of a mental breakdown over the last week, and actually talking to you, Bjorn, helped me through it.
I'm
Uh,
glad. I'm glad.
it was things. It's been rough, but we're back, and we may or may not be better than ever.
We'll find out. We will find out.
But
So I'm
besides,
going to ask you first this time. How you been? What have you been up to? What is new?
I mean, a lot of job applications out
Cool.
because uh, one of the things that I was going to do that would have paid me a substantial amount of money was has been pushed back for a time. So I've got to find some other way to make do, which has taken up a lot of my effort, as well as I keep trying to clean, and I end up just undoing the little bit of mess I've made since last time I intended to
Just kind
clean.
of pushing the dirt around.
Well, like I will clean stuff, but I won't get any progress made on like the first time, like 2 months ago or so, that I said I'm gonna really clean,
No,
and
I
then I
get you. I
partially
get you.
cleaned, and then I've just kept getting back to that state
Mhm.
because it takes me a couple days to build up the effort to clean. Uh, but other than that, just been playing a bit of video games. Definitely getting deep into some NBA 2K. Uh,
Nice.
that is what I did to distract myself from constantly hitting refresh over election results. Uh, I
Yes.
instead dunked on LeBron. So,
It's a win.
and
It's a win.
with 2 days ago, Microsoft's like Ultimate Game Pass combined with EA's thing.
Oh
So now
yeah.
I've got all those other EA games, and so Burnout Paradise Remastered has been heavy on the list because I like driving games. Eh. But yeah, that's a whole lot of it. Oh, and planning a D&D game that I'm going to try to start up with a bunch of new players that are all in my COVID bubble, so we could
Nice.
actually safely play with each other rather
That
than just
very
over
cool.
video, which will
Very
be
cool.
refreshing. Yeah. What about you, my dude?
A lot of time has been spent actually working on the campaign you're in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where I've been relearning how to use Dungeon Fog a bit for dungeon creation, where I am about three-quarters of the way done with a three-level wizard's tower
Yo.
and everything that will be held within. So that's been fun to take up some of my creative juices. And I got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm in love with it. So if I'm not working, I'm not here, and I'm not running a game, I'm probably playing Valhalla right now.
I mean, it's about time that you get to play something super Nordic that's made well.
Man, it's so great. Like they clearly did their research on Nordic history. Like the fact that the actors have Scandinavian accents when they're saying stuff, and it's not all Scottish like it was in How You Train Your Dragon. That said, How You Train Your Dragon, dope movie,
Oh yeah.
friggin' love it. But yeah, they did their research, and just going through the snowy hills of Norway, and it gets to nighttime, and all of a sudden you see the aurora borealis overhead, and you just kind of want to just stop and look at how gorgeous this game is.
Well, if there's one thing that the Assassin's Creed games have been great at, it's been making gorgeous scenery. Like, let's be real. Like, I know this isn't a video game talk show, but yo, like,
It's true.
for all the things that they mess up as a company, which there are a lot, the
Sure.
when you can actually get a good look at their skylines and their rendering, it's so pretty.
Well, and their architecture is precise, because I want to
Mm-hmm.
say, for like some of the ones that take place in Italy, people have said like, architecture students and actual architects
Yeah.
who've studied Roman architecture have said, no, it's spot on. Like they have it down perfectly, which
Yeah.
that's kind of the stuff I really get into in those games, because if I'm going to play an RPG like that, I want it to be fully immersive for me, and you can get lost in those worlds.
Oh yeah.
Plus, you can, if you want to be stealthy Viking, you can be stealthy Viking. If you want to swing a giant battle axe like I do, you can do that. And what's really cool is right at the beginning, and I won't say what the instance is where this happens. It's like, oh, the signal's scrambled, we need to fix it. And at that moment, you decide whether you want to play as the male or female presenting version of this character. And that's it. Like the story doesn't change at all based on which one you choose, which I think is really cool just for representation.
Yep. Someday we'll get a non-binary main character. Someday.
One day.
That'll be dope. And really, that would be super easy on programmers.
Right?
And like on writers, because if you're gonna do gendered protagonists, but you're gonna have multiple, like that means recording multiple like voiceover lines for everyone. If you just have everyone use they, shortcut, save you money.
Exactly.
Thank you, every video game producing company. I will take my checks in the mail.
Yep. And the checks you can't sign over to him, I'll take the rest.
That's right. So this week we are gonna talk about D&D 5th edition magic items.
Yeah,
because
like,
we love them a lot.
We do.
And they cost a lot of money, which is probably what we'll spend those checks on, developers.
Exactly. We'll spend them on what kind of items? Magic.
God. We talk about D&D, so there's no way I can avoid this every time.
Nah, man, I'm gonna find a way every time. Every time.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about some of our favorite magic items, and these aren't necessarily our rankings on like this is the best magic item in these rarities or whatever. It's just these are the ones that we like and are fun for us. Or maybe like there's one of mine that I picked. It's a deep memory attached because it's the newest version of one of the first magic items that one of my characters ever got.
Sure.
So like, it's not necessarily like this is just the best. These are the ones that we like.
And I tried to stay away from anything that had a, like we talked about this before we went on stream, avoiding anything that was a variable rarity. Like you won't see any belts of giant strength on here. Spoiler alert, as someone whose favorite class is the barbarian, yes, the belt of storm giant strength is my favorite item in the game because it gives you a strength of 29.
Which
and now
is
if you play
just
a barbarian
ridiculous.
And you have that, you can just wreck everything and it's fun. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Not that. And I don't have any. Well, one of them is technically a weapon, but I avoided a lot of the weapons just because I wanted more of like what represents kind of flavor or things that have potentiality. So like for my common magic item.
Let's just get into it. We might as well.
Yeah. So from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, I chose the Charlatan's Die. It's interesting because it's one of the few common magic items that requires attunement. But when you are attuned to this die, when you roll it, you control what number comes up. It's a 6-sided die. And it's just something I feel like you could give to a player at a very low level, or even at level 1. You could just be like, oh, you're playing a rogue? Here, you can start with this magic item. It's a Charlatan's Die, and just see what that player comes up with for how they want to use it. I think there's just a lot of potential with it and a lot of possible fun. Or, if nothing else, they can always just try it to scam people to get more money, because what rogue would do that?
Well, and that's you touched on one of my favorite things about all of the common magic items, and that is that they're not really that like huge or good because they're common magic items.
Yeah, they're
but
fun.
They leave the door open for so much interesting to do, where like it's not going to be something that is like game breaking or super powerful or like mechanically even that good. But it opens up the possibility for your players to use them in such weird ways that it's going to make a good story.
Which is like my honorable mention that I would give in the commons is the Moon Touched Sword, or it can be
Mm-hmm.
any blade. It's not a magical blade, so it doesn't bypass damage resistance as a magical weapon,
Right.
but it does give off enough light that you could see somewhere subterranean. So if you decided you were going to play a variant human fighter, then you are some way to be able to see in the dark.
I wanted that first level feat, baby.
Hey, variant human fighter is the most popular build for a reason.
Yep. Although now, playing a variant human, that first feat, uh, from here until I find something more interesting, will be ritual caster wizard, so that no matter what class I'm playing, I can ritual cast and have a familiar. Uh,
Just make sure
shout
you have a
out.
13 intelligence.
Not with that feat.
Now with that feat,
There's no requirement for that feat.
there's a requirement at my table. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So,
So now that I rained on your parade, what's your item?
it's fine. My item is one that I've used in your game, Bjorn. One that my artificer made. It's the Pot of Awakening. It's from
It's
Xanathar's.
fun.
It's so cool. It really it's so the Pot of Awakening. It's a common item. It's literally a pot for a plant, and you plant like a shrub or something in there. Like DMs can play around. The official text says it needs to be a shrub, but eh.
Sure.
Most DMs will let you fudge it. And all you do is you plant a plant in there and you let it grow for 30 days, and then it breaks the pot, so it's a one use item. It breaks the pot, and then you have a sentient shrub. And it's just it only works for games that you play for an amount of time, because you have to have that like in the pot for 30 days or use some wibbly wobbly time magic.
Sure.
But then like boom, you have Baby Groot.
So here's my question: with your sentient little shrub there, your baby Groot, if you will,
Mm.
if you taught that thing how to fetch, would it become a dogwood? I've got an extra week of puns saved up. This is what happens.
We can never take a break again.
No.
Never ever.
Every break we take, there'll be that many more puns, just guaranteed. That's how I operate.
uh, but yeah,
Why don't I play bards? Why don't I play
but-
bards more?
I don't know.
I
I'm
should.
surprised you haven't played a Barbarian yet.
I've thought about it. I don't like how the classes overlap as far as output really goes.
That's
because
fair.
Each one kind of takes away from the other. And frankly, if I'm going to play a bard, I'm going to play a lore bard and be the bardiest bard whoever barded.
That's also fair. I mean, but who knows? In like what, a week? Not even a week. Less than a week with Tasha's Cauldron. Who knows?
I'm not going to get any sleep Tuesday night.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm gonna be
that book.
reading all
Every-
kinds of things in that book.
I'll probably
Uh,
stay up till midnight on Monday so I can just start reading it too because I
Oh,
have
yeah.
access to D&D Beyond.
But
Not a sponsor yet.
not a sponsor yet.
Hmm?
Please.
We're looking at you, D&D Beyond. We love you.
But yeah, and the Pot of Awakening, it makes you a Baby Groot. You can teach it tricks, because it's an awakened shrub that it awakens friendly toward you. So like you've already got a little buddy. Another way to get a familiar.
And well, it's not quite a familiar because it can't do all those things like give you the help action or anything like that.
Yeah,
I'm with you. It's wonderful flavor. It's,
exactly.
Your party has a mascot now.
Yeah, and unlike, I don't know, a weasel, a shrub can't really suffocate.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, who would have that kind of problem?
Who would let any of their player characters have a pet weasel?
I know. And by the way, DMs, if you needlessly kill your party's little shrubs and weasels, shame on you. Shame on you for killing them needlessly.
Yeah, but definitely, if it makes a cool story point, kill that plant.
Oh, so I say put them in danger. Put
Well,
them
yeah.
in danger because then you can see what the party's willing to go through to save that friggin' plant.
Just a little shrub. Capture
Yeah,
that shrub. See what
it's a friggin-
happens.
Yeah, it's the
derail
friggin'
your own campaign.
I know it's that Looney Tunes cartoon where all of a sudden the baby gets out of its playpen and it's going through this Rube Goldbergian minefield of dangers, and whatever little cartoon character was supposed to watch it is just getting thrashed by these things trying to save the baby. That's exactly what it would be because you know the party is going to recklessly try and save it.
Absolutely.
That there's a free one shot idea for you guys.
Just be Buttons from the Animaniacs.
Yeah. Oh man, that's where the real fun is. Yeah, that's why you don't kill those things. I mean,
That's true.
if they won't save them, you kill them. But, oh, you put them in danger. I mean, the players will put them in danger. You amplify the danger and let them save those things.
Yeah.
Fun.
But
Fun
like
for the
stuff
whole
like
family.
that. That's why I love the Pot of Awakening, because it's just there's so much that will happen with that thing.
Guaranteed.
Let's move up to our uncommon magic items, and
Okay.
this is where the list of possibilities explodes.
Now, this is one where I think there's a slight chance you and I will have overlap, and we'll see if we do. I will say first, this is the one thing I find interesting about my list. My common one requires attunement. My uncommon one doesn't. Because
Okay.
My uncommon magic item, I chose the immovable rod.
This is not the same one.
Okay, I think the immovable rod is potentially the most fun item in the game of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
See,
If,
I
as a
actually
DM
specifically picked not to do the immovable rod because I was 95% sure you were going to.
I love the immovable rod. It has literally the only limits it has is your player's imagination. And as a DM, if you really want to have some fun, even at fairly low levels, give your players an immovable rod and just see what they do with it. Just see what they do. Because at some point, they're going to surprise you. Now, I can't guarantee every party is going to have an instance like we saw in the first campaign of Critical Role, where a couple characters ended up inside of an ancient black dragon and then clicked the immovable rod inside of it to help pin it in the sky for a round, which to me still one of the greatest things I've ever seen with an immovable rod. But just think of all the things you can do with it. You can bar a door. If you have an enemy you need to question, you get them prone, you place the immovable rod on their chest and you click it. Now they can't get up.
Yep.
I mean, there are so many different ways it can be used, and that's why I think it's all kinds of fun.
See, my personal favorite use of the immovable rod is for impromptu pull-up contests.
Exactly. But that's why it's great. Is that absurd? Sure. Is it fun?
Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, my favorite uncommon magic item is the immovable rod, not because of what I can think to do with it, but because if I give it to a group of 5 players, they're going to come up with cool ideas for it at some point. And they're going to pull it out in a combat, and they're going to use it in a way to defeat a creature that I never saw coming, and I'll be so proud of them.
Well, and that's one of the best things.
Know what you have.
So mine, this is the item that comes from my first ever character that I played.
Okay.
And it used to be called Ilana's Quiver. It is now called the Efficient Quiver. Okay. And it's just it's a pretty simple item as far as magic items go. It's straight up, it's just a bag of holding that's a quiver. And in older versions, it had slightly different sizes, but in this one, like, you can hold up to 18 javelins in it also, or javelin-sized objects.
Sure.
You can also hold 6 quarterstaffs or different bows or spears in another compartment, and like up to 60 arrows or bolts, which usually you don't. A lot of DMs don't make you track common ammo, but it's still nice just to have that extra huge space. And it was straight up cool. My first character ever was a ranger, and that was the first magic item that I ever got, and it was just super cool because I've also eventually, as that character, because we played for like 2 years or something like that, and my character just ended up gathering all of these different bows that had different like enchantments on them, and so he could swap out bows in combat because he had
makes
quick
something
draw.
like that fun.
Yeah, and so like he had quick draw in because we were playing 3-5. He had quick draw, so he could draw and stow a weapon as a free item, free action. So he could pull up with a flaming bow one round and a shock bow the next, and it was just super cool, and it's memorable for me because that was my first thing. And so definitely the efficient quiver. Give it to your archer. See what they do. Like we ended up polymorphing and then hiding someone in there for a little bit of time, because we didn't have a proper bag of holding yet.
Yeah, and that's part of what I love about this item. You can do interesting stuff like that, and then also you talking about, it's got space for javelins or for spears.
Mm-hmm.
It To me, it's not just a cool item for that archer, but it really adds a level of potential role play. Because if imagine you've got an archer in the party and you've also got a barbarian. Well,
Mm-hmm.
your barbarian wants to have some javelins because that's your barbarian's really only chance for a decent ranged attack. Well,
Absolutely.
if there's a party member who can hold a metric crap ton of javelins in this thing, they're going to probably lug them around for the barbar. And then when said barbarian needs them, passes them over. But that's going to create this friendship. And that's also going to create these cool moments in combat where they end up back to back. And maybe the barbarian's watching the archers back with their axe. And then if there's something flying, throwing javelins to help assist. And that can really help build those relationships and friendships in game. And that's where I come to love items like that.
Absolutely. And it's also like, besides just the nostalgia for me, the sheer amount of things that you can do with this. It's like, yeah, it's just storage, but it has specific compartments. And so
Exactly.
also as a DM, you can give it to a player with like other things already in it that the player's not going to know until they look in the particular compartments.
Which makes it fun.
Yeah. So let's move on to the rare items.
So
And
yeah,
I can't
with
wait to hear
with
what
the
yours
rares.
is,
I
because
had to grab the book here for this one so I can read specifically.
Okay.
So, fun fact: my next few are really close together in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which
Okay.
which was not intentional. But on page 160 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, you will find a rare, wondrous item that again does not require attunement. This is Dairn's Instant Fortress. I
um
love this.
so
item.
we picked the same one.
Yes, isn't it great though? I mean, okay. So you use an action. You place this 1-inch metal cube on the ground, and you
Uh,
speak the command word. It rapidly grows into a fortress until you dismiss it when it's empty. 20 feet on a side, 30 feet high, arrow slits, etc., etc., etc. Here's what I love about it, though. A creature in the area where it
Yes.
appears has to make a DC 15 Dex save or take 10d10 bludgeoning damage or half on a successful save, and they're pushed into an unoccupied space outside the fortress. Here's just the idea that I love is if there is this small mob of enemies,
Yep.
like where this says you use the action to place it on the ground and speak its command word. Now, I don't know how each DM wants to rule it, because to me that sounds like if I place it on the ground with my action and speak the command word and this thing grows outward, it either has to grow outward cube size directly away from me so that I'm not caught in the yeet blast, or can I take said cube, huck that thing while speaking the command word, and then when it lands, it blasts outward. Either way, there is so much grounds for hilarity.
See,
this
for
thing.
me as a DM, I would rule that it grows around you.
Okay, so
That would be-
you end up inside it.
Yeah. That's just because I would want to give my players the option of like of using it as an oh shit block,
Okay.
where it's just, what do I do? Fortress.
See, for me, I would actually rule it to be more like Thunderwave, where it's this
Mm-hmm.
cube coming away from you, and then you still have to walk inside. But
Right.
either way, I think I would rule it doesn't affect the player who activated it. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
this is the stupidest item in the world. But oh my gods, do I love Daern's Instant
It's
Fortress.
so good. And also, like, for me, it's not even the it's not even like using it as a bomb, but just having giving your players an option of some fortifications
Yeah.
or just a safe place to sleep that isn't Liamon's tiny hut.
Yeah. Well, and also what I like about it, it's actually only a semi safe place because it's
Right.
made of adamantine. It mentions how it has hit points and it can only be restored by a wish spell,
Mm-hmm. And it
which,
can only be hurt by magical damage.
yeah. And I like this because you could have it where you give it to your players when they reach sort of a, it's a rare item. So we'll say
Mm-hmm.
they're around level 8, 9, maybe 10 when you give it to them. And this becomes sort of their stronghold. And they're well known for this. And then when you want to introduce your big bad, that whatever they're going to fight at the end, the big bad friggin' destroys that thing.
Yeah.
They're going to be pissed. They're going to have this attachment to it, but you instantly made it personal.
Yep.
You don't have to do any damage to any of the characters. So you can truly have like this, epic level lich come in, wreck their fortress. They have no chance of retaliating against this thing because it's just too powerful. But they know, oh, when we level up and we see that thing again, oh, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also with the fortress, like you mentioned, giving it to the players at like level 8 or 9, probably because of
Yeah.
the rarity of the magic item. But you could also give it to them earlier, but damaged. So like
Sure.
you have like so you give it to them earlier, but the roof's missing, or like the back wall is broken,
Yeah.
or something like that. And that could be really fun because it also gives them like extra strategy as well as making it slightly less impregnable. So then, like you can justify giving it to weaker players.
Exactly. This was not the one I thought we would have the same one
No,
on. But
me
it's such a
neither.
great item.
It's such a good item though because it's just so shenanigans prone. And I mean, my honorable mention for this was going to be the flying carpet.
Oh, see,
Because
the flying
it's
carpet's just a great item also.
like
Or
it's a
that
flying
or
carpet,
broom
my
of-
dudes.
Yeah, you got a flying carpet or even the broom of flying, anything
Mhm.
that allows you to fly around as a character. Broom of flying can be used more in combat.
Yeah.
It's more maneuverable. But the flying carpet's just cool.
It's a flying carpet.
It
What do you want?
is. Yeah. What else do you want to do?
All
But
right.
yeah,
So let's
I love this thing.
let's bump up to our very rare.
So you remember how I said some of these were in a row here?
Yep.
Remember how I said Daern's Instant Fortress is on page 160?
Yep.
Well, on page 161, and this was not intentional. This happened to be the item I chose. Is the Dancing Sword.
Oh.
Now this one requires attunement. We're back to attuning, but this one I like. You use your bonus action. You toss the sword into the air, and it works very similar to like a cleric's spiritual weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Use your bonus action to make it fly around and attack, but only up to 4 times. After its 4th attack, it flies back to your hand, or if both your hands are full, it clatters to the ground at your feet.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about the dancing sword is if you have a character in the party who doesn't do much with their bonus action, now they're doing a lot with their bonus action. Part of what makes clerics so amazing in 5th edition is spiritual weapon. They can create this weapon in the air. It doesn't require concentration, and it attacks using their bonus action.
Yeah.
And clerics are notorious for not doing anything with their bonus action unless they're casting Healing Word.
Mm-hmm.
Well, spiritual weapon fixes that. And again, there are various martial classes that don't get a lot out of their bonus action.
Yep, like for a lot of martial classes, the bonus action is an offhand attack.
Yeah, like look, you look at like rogues, they get a lot of use out of it because they're able to use their cunning action to
Right.
hide, and rangers are oftentimes using it for hunter's mark, maybe other spells. But you look at
Or if rangers get the update that I want them to have, it'll be commanding their animal companion.
here's hoping, like it
Ugh.
really needs. But
Just make
I,
Beastmaster not bad, please.
I largely
Please,
look
wizards.
at barbarians and fighters here because there are so many fighter classes that unless they're using second wind, they probably didn't use their bonus action.
Yep.
But because the dancing sword uses your character's mods for attack and damage, now you got a fighter who's got this expert level sword flying around the map, cutting things down. Or in the case of a barbarian, you've got basically what would amount to this massive meat cleaver flying around, just gooching fools. And that's fun because when you have those martial classes, they want to do more damage.
Well, and also they just want to do stuff.
Yeah, and lastly, the other thing that can be fun with it is use like a bard or a wizard could have this just as their line of defense, that last line in case somebody gets all the way to the back line where they are supporting. They now have a sword that can help them.
It's like, oh no, I'm squishy. Sword, help me.
Exactly.
Please save me, sword.
I love the dancing sword. Plus, knowing players as they are, they would grow very attached to it. They would probably name it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fun item. And I also think that because it uses that character's modifications, it's a very rare item you could give to them a little lower level than you might normally give.
Totally.
A very rare item.
Especially if you have a party that they already use a lot of their bonus actions.
Yeah.
Then you can give it to them early and like it's not going to be that huge of a boon for them because it'll take out one of their other bonus actions.
Yeah.
Like it would be evil, but giving it to your rogue and like making sure for some story reason that only your rogue can use it.
Oh yeah.
That would be terrible and mean. Don't do it.
No, I would do that. Like I would do that so fast.
I know you would.
Yeah. So what do you got for a very rare?
Okay, so for me, I got I grabbed one that I was a little worried that you might pick, just because of who you are as a person. I picked the Dwarven Thrower.
That is, I looked at that one.
It's so good because one, just as a person, I love returning weapons, and I did specifically through this list not pick any of the boosts to magic items that are like a +1, +2, +3, or a thing that you can add to just about any item, as well as like with the armors, like back in, I think Uncommon is where Mithril comes in.
Yeah.
Like Mithril's dope, but it's not worth it for this list. You know what I mean?
And also those things aren't the kind of magic items that make your players' eyes just light up with joy as they think of all the things they can do with it.
Yeah, like those kind of items, like, yes, they're a great boost. They're super useful. Like Mithril armor on anyone that isn't necessarily sneaky but heavily armored. Boom, do it. Yes. Yeah. But with the Dwarven Thrower, you get it. It's out of the basic rules. So even if you own nothing, it's still in like the 5th edition open source, which is nice. And it's already a +3 Warhammer. The only downside to it is that by the rules, you have to be a dwarf.
Yes, you do.
Like you have to be a dwarf. And good God, what is happening with the dogs?
They heard about the Dwarven Thrower and they're excited.
Yeah, because they love to fetch. And so the Dwarven Thrower, it's a Warhammer. It's already a +3 Warhammer that when you throw it, you can Thor call it back.
Yes.
Like it's a returning hammer that also has specifically damage on the way back. And that is my favorite part because like calling it back no, I'm thinking of the the Dwarven Thrower in 3.5. In
For
5th
sure.
edition, it doesn't deal damage when it comes back, which is unfortunate. But it does deal extra damage to giants.
Which is just fun.
Because, like, think about it. You're a dwarf fighting a giant. You have this big ass hammer, and any giant is going to think, squish tiny man. And your dwarf is going to go, no.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but anytime you can give those martial classes a cool ranged option,
Oh, yeah.
like that's great. And honestly, like to DMs out there, if you have a player who's playing a dwarven fighter or barbarian or paladin or some sort of martial class
Mm-hmm.
that uses strength,
Yep.
that's the important thing here, you would be, I would say, borderline foolish to not take an opportunity to put the Dwarven Thrower in your campaign somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a name, make it a family relic, make it this weapon that a hero of great renown used to use. You make that as a side quest for your
Oh,
dwarf
yeah.
to have to go get. It is going to be something this whole party
Mhm.
will rally around, and I'll tell you, it'll be this unforgettable experience for them.
Absolutely.
I'm with you. I love the Dwarven Thrower.
Like, and you could especially use, and really this goes for any of those magic items that, like, you have to be a dwarf or an elf. There are like 2 or 3 of them. I think there's one besides the Eye of Grumish, or however you'd say that Orcan deity's name. That, like, that one's orc specific, although maybe don't throw that one in your game. But like all the other ones, if you have a player that is playing that race, put those items in there. Give it to be like, I like to throw in solstice festivals into my games,
Yes, yes.
so that, like, every once in a while, just like long running anime, there's a festival episode, and, like,
it's fun.
give a big, like, give some skill competitions, and then at the end of the festival, whoever got the most points in all these skill competitions gets the item or something like that. Like, that's what I usually do with these kind of items when I put them in games, and it's because it's a way that you can make them earn it. It's fun, but they can totally skip it if they want to. They won't want to, but
No, no.
they could.
And you can also
And
always use the classic trope of drop some lore on them where there's this great weapon or item that is, bound to their heritage in some way, shape, or
Mhm.
form. Make it very clear they know exactly what it is, and introduce a villain that has it.
Oh, that'll make them
That's
want
all
to
you
kill
gotta
that
do.
villain so quick.
Yep, yep. And they
You
will
want
be like, well, we obviously have to go take this person down. Why? Because I want that hammer. That's why.
why? Because I want Dad's hammer.
Yeah, yeah. I need the hammer.
Give me Daddy hammer.
Yes. So leveling up a little more. Remember how I said consecutive pages here?
Another one that starts with D.
Yes, it is. It's on page 162. We were just
God.
on page 161.
You
And
are
my legendary item choice, it takes up all of page 162. And the
Oh.
art for it is on page 163. And it even spills onto page 164 a bit.
Yep.
This item will potentially end your campaign.
It's true.
And if you're watching and you know D&D, you already know what I'm talking about. It's the deck of many things.
Yep.
It is my single favorite item in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, simply because if your players know what it is, they will not want to touch it. But
Unless they're me.
they'll also want to touch it. And my only caveat with the deck of many things is, you, as a DM, you got to be real careful if you're going to introduce it
Oh, yeah.
and when you're going to introduce it. There's a reason it's known as the deck that ends the campaign, because some of those cards have disastrous results.
Yep.
And I cannot tell you how many horror stories I have read from DMs that have gone, my players are level 6 and I gave them the deck of many things, and now this happened and this happened and this happened, and I don't know how to fix my campaign. And most people go, you can't.
Yep.
Or You can, but it's going to be hard. Like it's a legendary item. Like,
Yeah.
Those true legendary items. If your players are below level, I mean, it says level 17 for a lot of that stuff. I think below level 14, off limits.
Absolutely.
14 through 17 for some legendary stuff, maybe, but especially with the way 5th edition is built, I think you got to be really careful with all legendary items, but a true game breaker like the Deck of Many
Yeah.
Things, if they're not level 17 or above, because at that point your spellcasters have access to 9th level spells, and that to me is the most important part of this.
Absolutely.
Don't give it to them. Just don't, because the fact of the matter is, you give them that deck at a low level, one of them is going to draw the card that gives them like 50,000 experience or something.
Yep.
And now they're multiple levels ahead of everyone else. And one of them's going to draw the void. And
Yep.
they're going to have to figure out how to get that character out of the friggin' void.
Yep. Which you're not going to.
No. I own a physical Deck of Many Things that was actually made by a local artist. I'm not going to walk across my apartment to go get it. I'll show it in another stream so people can see it. The art's beautiful. I helped kickstart it. And what I love is when I met this artist, she signed the box for me, and I asked her if she'd be willing to either put a prayer of good fortune or a prayer of misfortune on it. And I asked her not to tell me which. And she did. And she gave the deck back to me. And I don't know. But there may be a time sometime where I run a campaign and my players encounter the Deck of Many Things. And I will bring out that physical deck. And we will see what happens.
That's going to be the coolest thing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
I know, I've heard a lot of people talk about the Deck of Many Things as the Deck of Epilogues.
Yep.
And that's a good way, that's a really good way to use it. It's just like, you've finished basically everything that you had planned for the campaign. All right, then
card.
throw the Deck of Many at them. You know? Like,
yeah, it's a great thing where if you are in that after campaign area, that like that epilogue, as you put it,
yeah,
where you're just like, I don't know what to do with these characters. I have this group of friends, they want to keep playing. We don't want to end the story for these characters. What do I do? Man, throw the Deck of Many Things at them.
Yep.
See what happens. Because if they're 20th level and maybe they have some epic boons, at that point they're basically gods. So they can handle the Deck of Many Things.
I mean, we're basically gods.
Yeah, turn into a goldfish and see what happens. But the word of warning to all DMs with the Deck of Many Things is, if you truly love your campaign and you truly love the story they're telling, you better think twice and think long and hard about introducing that item, because it can absolutely waylay your entire story.
And that's
in a minute.
That's part of the reason why in 5th edition there's the Deck of Some Things.
Yeah, and I almost chose the Deck of Several Things as my legendary item here. Even though it's greatly reduced, it's fun. It's from a one shot. I think it's the Lost Laboratory of Qualish.
Yep.
And what I love about it is even all the negative stuff in it is confined to the island that it takes place on.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you get this one, you have a -1 to all your saving throws until you leave the island. And I really feel like, and I'm sure I'm right on this, only because the Deck of Many Things is something that every player wants to play with, but a lot of people are afraid to. And I feel like this one shot straight up said, hey, do what you want to do, because once you leave, everything's fine.
Right. And also, as a DM, you could easily make it, not that island, but a different part of your world. Just throwing that out there.
Hey, fun fact, in our campaign, I don't know if you remember that little bit where those pirates wanted you to go investigate an island.
Yes.
I was going to run that one shot, and it had the Deck of Several Things in it.
I wish we would have gone with them.
No, yeah. You guys were dealing with other things at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe another adventure, maybe another campaign.
And also, the Plank King's a dumb name. Teleport.
So now I want to know. I hope I didn't steal any thunder with the Deck of Many Things, but I'm curious what your legendary item is.
The Deck of Many Things was going to be my honorable mention. For me, it's the Robe of Archmagi.
Yeah.
It's from the DMG. It's beautiful. And the thing that I love about it, besides just its ridiculous boosts, because like you're as a wizard you don't really get a whole lot of armor class because you shouldn't be getting hit. But
Oh,
like it makes your armor class 15 plus your dex. You get advantage on saving throws against spells or magical effects, and
repeat that last one.
you have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects.
Which is stupid and
Yeah,
awesome.
it makes it makes your wizard actually feel like an all-powerful spellcaster.
Yeah.
Because it has to be a sorcerer, a warlock, or a wizard, but it doesn't just have to be a wizard. Like you can give this to your warlock and make your warlock feel amazing enough to where maybe they end up fighting their own patron once they figure out their patron's a terrible, terrible creature. Uh,
Which is a great epilogue for your
oh yeah.
warlocks, guys.
And last but not least, the robe also gives you it boosts your spell DCs by 2, and it boosts your spell like your spell attack modifier by 2, which is
Which,
freaking
yeah,
huge.
it's like a piece of armor that's actually increasing your attack output as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you aren't looking at the Robe of Archmagi in your campaign and you have a spellcaster, really
Do it.
consider doing that. Like I have played
Mm-hmm.
in a campaign where a warlock has attained that item. I cannot tell you how friggin' powerful that made her.
Oh
There
yeah.
was a brief point where our warlock was our most powerful member, and I was playing a half orc barbarian at the
Yep.
time. And even my damage output at rage, even if I was a berserker, even if I was doing a frenzied rage, there was a period I couldn't keep up with the damage output.
Oh yeah.
Which, I mean, but our warlock just felt so powerful, which I think for spellcasters, and you might feel differently.
Mm.
I think it's the coolest when you can give that to a warlock, because
Oh yeah.
while warlocks do get that D8 hit die, they got more hit points. They have that because let's face it. I mean, okay, Eldritch Invocations are cool. We all love Eldritch Blast with Agonizing Blast. But at the end of the day, your warlock has had 2 spell slots for almost their entire existence.
Yeah.
They don't get to cast many spells. People can say, well, they recharge on a short rest. That's fine.
Fine.
But any DM is going to know that.
And
when they
stop your
design
short rest.
Yeah, when they design a dungeon, they'll be like, well, Warlock's not going to get a short rest. We're going to cut it off. We're going to make sure that Warlock can't regain those spells
Mm-hmm.
to make those spells seem all the more precious. So when that Warlock finally gets, say, like that Rope of Archmagi,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to feel monstrous.
Oh yeah, because every one of their spells, like every one of their few spells, is going to happen, and that's huge for a warlock.
Yes.
And my real like, and that's those are my favorite things as a player for that item. As a DM, there's this additional bit in the description, and that is that each different cloak of the Archmagi, or robe of the Archmagi, they have different colors. They are color coded to different alignments.
Yep.
And you can't attune to it unless it's that alignment. So as a DM, you can throw these on your villains without worrying about your players getting too strong.
Yeah. Like,
Which is huge, because as a DM, I so often am like, yep, I really want to make this enemy stronger, but when the players beat him, then they have his, plus ridiculous longsword or whatever.
yeah. Fun
And
fact,
so-
that's why I use Baylors, because when they explode, the rules say their weapons are destroyed with them.
Yes, they are. And so it's one of those things that's really nice as a DM, because you can have like this purely evil big bad that's wearing the robe of the Archmagi, and then when your players kill him, your wizard's not going to get that huge bump that maybe you don't want him to have at level 5.
Exactly. Or you could give it this wonderful moral quandary. If you have a wizard who you know is very devout and good, and they're sworn to that, and then you make sure you have a evil villain who has this robe, make them make that choice. Like, are you willing to break bad just to keep this? And then as a DM, you even tell them, you're like, okay, here are the things you're going to have to do to remain evil to stay attuned to this. Otherwise, I'm going to say attunement broken, it doesn't work, It's just a fancy cloak.
Absolutely. And it again, with all of the things that we've mentioned from a DM standpoint, all of them have this little extra thing that like that's cool for the story,
Yes.
you know? And
And
they're
then we
very easy and simple. Like, not to use up our last bit of time and maybe make us skip our artifacts, but it's a thing that I found with because I'm working on stuff and talking with a bunch of new players about their characters. But a
Sure.
thing that I've noticed with a lot of these new players is that they are trying to make their characters interesting by making up new things rather than using what's already there to be interesting.
What do you mean?
And that is like, it can be done, but it's so much more work than it's worth. So with these magic items, you don't have to make anything new really for them to be interesting.
No.
It's already there, it's already written, it's already balanced, it's already planned. So you don't have to, as a DM, work that hard to make this interesting.
A lot of the work has been done for us. It's
Yep.
right here.
And so that's just a thing. And my little side rant of when making characters, just use stuff from the book and you will be interesting. You don't have to work to make it interesting. I've like I play a human fighter. He's interesting.
Yeah.
And I've only used stuff from the books.
Exactly.
You don't need to make a bunch of extra things just to be interesting. Like,
And
with all of these magic items that we've mentioned, they're already built and made and there.
Yeah.
Just, you can use them.
Correct me if you disagree, but I really feel like where characters come alive, what makes them who they are, and the stuff we really remember about them, it's what happens in game. It's what happens
Absolutely.
in story. Like if you look at Lord of the Rings, yes, there's a lot of lore. Tolkien wrote a lot of stuff, and if you look up all the things, you can find out who Bilbo was before Gandalf and the dwarves showed up at
Mhm.
Bag End. But how much do we really care? Like, what made Bilbo Baggins interesting was what happened on that journey. When he went there and back again, that's what makes him interesting.
Yeah.
When the Fellowship of the Ring was formed, going into the Lord of the Rings, that's what makes those characters interesting. Do I care that much who Aragorn was before he was introduced in those stories? No, I actually don't, because what I saw with him was so interesting and so captivating. And like, going out of the fantasy realm, I would use like Mad Max Fury Road, which I think is a perfect movie. I don't know much about Furiosa before this started.
Mhm.
There are things I can infer from how she's dressed,
Yeah.
but I don't know much. But I know Imperator Furiosa is one of the coolest characters I've ever seen. I fell in love with that character through the movie. Tom Hardy's iteration of Max was great, and you get some gleaning about who he was, but we more see who he is.
Yeah.
And I think all of us care about for your characters. We care about who you are now. You don't have to write 20 pages of backstory.
I mean, sometimes you'll want to,
But yeah,
you don't need to.
No, true facts. Your 20 pages of backstory, it'll probably never come up during the campaign.
Probably not.
Nah. But the moments you'll have during the game playing, that's where it's going to make it the most interesting.
And some of those moments can lead you up to finding these amazing, epic artifact magic items.
Yes.
Uh,
And I think we have just enough time for artifacts.
just barely.
Yeah.
Which artifacts, these ones, they're the huge, they're the big, they're the holy shit, this is the end of the game and we have this.
Yeah. And they're great because a lot of times, if you choose ones out of the books, they have their own lore that goes with them.
Yes.
And mine is quick, dirty, simple, because you know the lore that goes with it when I say what it is. Mine's the Wand of Orcus, baby.
I knew it was going to be the Wand of Orcus. Because
I love Orcus.
we all know how much you love Orcus, bud.
Favorite characters in all the D&D mythos. He's so evil. He's so nasty. And what's great is if someone's like, well, I'm going to introduce Vecna. Vecna learned
right.
his stuff from Orcus. That's what it says in the lore.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Wand of Orcus. It's a weapon. It's a mace, but it has spells along with it. It allow you can cast power word kill and all sorts of crap like that. But here's my favorite thing about the Wand of Orcus. If you're not Orcus and you try to attune to it, you have to make a DC 17 con save. On a successful save, you take 10d6 necrotic damage. On a successful save,
Yep.
if you fail, you die and rise as a zombie.
Yep.
I just friggin' love that, where it's like if you have that character who's like, ooh, that's it, the Wand of Orcus, I'm going to tune to this super evil mace. Okay.
Good luck, buddy.
Take that d20. You get to roll it one friggin' time.
Yep.
Maybe you have things outside that would allow you to maybe roll with advantage or whatever, but you got to make a friggin' con save. And if you fail that con save, if this is the moment that nat 1 comes up, you're a zombie now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But it's cool, it's nasty, and if you introduce the Wand of Orcus into your campaign, that means you've introduced Orcus in your campaign. And Orcus is one of my favorite villains in all of D&D mythos. And what I love about him is I sometimes love a good old-fashioned one-dimensional villain. He wants to kill everything and replace it with undeath.
Yep.
There's no understanding that. There's no, well, I can see his side. There is no both sides. There is no both sidesing.
Nope.
No both sides.
That motherfucker's a villain.
And I love Orcus.
Like,
he's evil, nasty, and great. So my artifact is the Wand of Orcus.
That's phenomenal because it does introduce Orcus to your game, and you have that big old villain who even other villains are like, hey, that's a lot.
Yeah. And what's great, if your players get their hands on the Wand of Orcus and they're like, well, none of us are going to try to attune to it, but we must find a way to destroy it. It says in the rules, there's only one way to destroy it. It's super convoluted. And the best thing is, once they have the Wand of Orcus, Orcus is going to want it back.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to send his forces. So you can use that as a great way to just kickstart the last leg of your campaign. Let them find the Wand of Orcus. Let them get their hands on it and then figure out how to destroy it. And while they're working on that, slowly build this massive undead assassination attempt where liches, not one lich, multiple liches show up and just wreck everything they hold dear. Make them hurt.
That's you get your hands on the Wand of Orcus, and all right, hello Fallout 4.
Yeah. So that's why I choose the Wand of Orcus, because I love Orcus, and B, I see so much potential.
I dig that. See, for me, I took my artifact from the other end of the spectrum. Yeah. This is a good artifact, like a good aligned one. So like your characters might be able to keep it with no trouble. It's also got my favorite newer book mechanic in 5th edition because it's from Mythic Odyssey.
Okay.
And this is Cursor, the Spear of Helioid.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I was looking at this earlier today.
It's such a cool item because for one thing, it has this boon to it that if you're in the specific source book area for this game, and obviously as a DM you can alter and switch that, but it can be thrown from a particular place, which is called Nyx, to any other point in Theros, which is where that entire campaign would take place. Now, you might not necessarily be able to aim it or be able to hit a target with it, but the general area, you can throw it and just, it's gonna be there. As well as the mechanic that I love that's in it, that was introduced in Mythic Odysseys, is the piety system. And that's kind of like with we have them in our game, Matt Mercer, the artifacts of
the Vestiges of Divergence.
Yes, the Vestiges of Divergence, where there's exalted forms and like different levels of the magic item.
Yeah,
this has piety.
Exalted.
Yeah, this has piety where like it's already it starts off as a +3 spear, that deals an extra 2d8 radiant damage, so big spear.
Yes.
But also, if you're a worshiper of Helioid, which is basically whatever, pick your sun god, then you also get temporary hit points in the morning. Or if you're a really devout follower, you get extra, and the DM gets to play with this, where you get extra. It's at first it's a minor beneficial property, and then there's a second minor additional property, and then at the biggest level you get a major beneficial property,
Which
which
are potentially huge.
yeah, which basically you could make this as a DM. You can make this magic item whatever you want, and because it's a blessing from their deity, you can really make it like this is specific. This is what your character's already doing, so let's make you
Yeah.
better at it.
You can work with your player on this too
Mhm.
to build this item that means so much to
Yeah.
them and to their connection to their god.
'Cause,
In,
like-
in D&D, you can't play an atheist. Gods exist in the D&D.
I mean, you can, but
but you look dumb.
yeah,
Like
You're
you,
like-
you can dislike gods, you can
It's-
distrust gods.
you can play as an atheist, but like one of your other players is going to probably literally meet their god at some point.
Exactly. They're like,
So-
really? You don't believe in the person we just talked to?
You don't believe
Okay.
that right there? That's
Yeah.
dink dink.
Yes.
Hmm.
No, great choice. I think
Yeah.
Theros is a wonderful thing. And I think the most important thing with a lot of magic items is really, as a DM, look at how you can use them to flavor your campaign. Look at not just in ways to reward your players, but find a way to make them exciting. Like the fact that you guys in my campaign, I resurrected a villain that you've now encountered again. And one of your party members has been wearing her bracer of flying daggers for literally over a year,
Since
real
we-
time.
Yeah, since we accidentally killed her.
Yes, but the fact that she saw it, she's like, "That's mine." Like, there are these memories. There's associations to it.
Mhm.
You,
Or, like,
Jordan,
yeah,
your
like-
character, you're wearing the armor, and you just encountered that character again in the Nine Hells.
Yep.
Who looked you up and down and was like, "Hey, it looks okay on you."
And now that he's in hell and not coming back to the material world, we're kind of friends now?
I won't go that far, but I mean,
It's very
well,
strange.
he's lawful evil. He had a code, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, you killed me fair and square, respect." But yeah, find ways just to add stories to these things. Like your players will thank you for it, and magic items are amazing. Don't get tied in just to those +1, 2, and 3
Mhm.
things. There's so many things out there that can give joy to your players, except the deck.
Yeah, except the deck. The deck of many things will most likely make your players go insane.
Yeah, it'll most likely end your campaign. I've
yeah.
played in a campaign where a DM decided to introduce it to low-level characters. That campaign's over now.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It doesn't sound like a long-running campaign.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But so these have been our favorite magic items from 5th edition D&D.
Yeah.
If there are more that if there's one of yours that you really want us to talk about and give our take on, throw it, like, once this is on YouTube, drop it in a comment below. Go
Please
to our
do.
Facebook, hit us up on our Instagram. It's
Yeah.
all under Dice Jailers. No one had that name, so we get all of the priority
We book
names.
them all. But no,
We-
seriously, wherever you see us, like, share, subscribe. If you're watching this, we are not bullshitting when we say we appreciate you. Like,
Absolutely.
seriously, the idea that anybody wants to listen to what we talk about, we have a huge
Yeah.
appreciation for that, and you matter to us, and honestly, we love you for it.
Because seriously, we're just two nerds in our houses
Yeah.
doing this. So if
Yeah,
you like
it's-
this, like, let us know.
Yeah,
Engage
awesome.
with us. I mean,
And if there's anything you want us to talk about, we'll take time, we'll figure it out, and once we know what to say, we'll get cracking.
oh man, how long you been holding on to that one, bud?
Whole show, the whole show.
Also, shout out to our hockey team. I don't know a
Go
damn thing about
Kraken!
hockey, but I'm about to get into it because we have a hockey
Oh,
team.
man.
Like,
By the way, the Vancouver Canucks, they can officially suck it. If you're a Canucks fan, Kraken going to be here soon. We can't.
are you throwing the gauntlet on the NHL rivalry already?
That is, man. I love sports, and I love sports rivalries.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And the Canucks are right up the road, so it gives me a team I can just hate right out the gate.
it's true.
So yeah, I hope the Canucks lose all their games next season. Go Kraken.
Yeah, but please, like, on the things, comments, send us things, like, tell us your nerd stuff. If you have a company and want to sponsor an episode, let us know, because we haven't had that yet, and we think it'd be dope.
And
like,
if you have
it'd be
crap
super
where you're
dope.
like, hey, we think you guys are cool. Will you talk about my thing on there? Yeah.
Yep.
We will.
And
You don't even have to give us money. As long as you're cool, we'll talk about it.
probably,
Like, honestly, if you're bigoted in any way, shape, or form, no, we won't talk about it. And
No,
we'll tell
absolutely
you to F
not.
yourself. Like,
Yep.
happily, we'll tell you that, and we'll block you and never talk to you again. But if you're cool, oh man, we'll talk about your stuff. Oh, I know we're running super over.
Yeah.
If you're out there, if you haven't checked this game out on Kickstarter, it's called Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
yes.
They're getting to the end of their Kickstarter. It's a system. It looks so cool. One of their stretch goals was to pay their contributors more money. It looks like a great system. It's gonna be a great game. I'm a backer.
As soon as I get some funding tomorrow, I'm going to be a backer as well.
Yeah.
Like, I've been waiting and waiting for, like, saving the extra pennies of backup money to get this system, because it looks so dope. Like,
It does.
when it comes out, we're gonna do an episode on it. Like,
it has
for
a
sure.
Roll20 module as well on it. So if you've been using Roll20 like a lot of us had in these times, you can do Roll20 Thirsty Sword Lesbians. And if you're like, well, what if I'm not a lesbian? What if I'm not about swords? What if I'm not thirsty? They address those things in their Kickstarter. So seriously, go to Kickstarter. Go check out Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
It's COVID. If you're not Ace, you're probably thirsty.
Word.
Shout out.
Yeah. Skull.
But please keep yourself safe. Come back next week.
Please keep
and
yourself safe.
Be good people to everyone, I guess. We'll find a good tagline for the end eventually, I promise.
One day.
Someday.
And
We'll just say...
Next week, we got something good for you.
We do?
Yeah, we do. Bards.
Oh, right! That's the plan! Yup. Yup. Next week, we're talking about bard colleges. We're talking about bards.
Relate to actual genres of music.
Yep. It's going to be another one of our into the real world kind of episodes, which those have been my favorites so far, except when we had my best friend Ethan on here, because he's my dude.
What's great is I think this will be the first Dice Jailers where you will probably see arguments.
That's probably true.
Like, we're going to disagree, and I'm looking forward to
it. Oh yeah, it's going to be great. Anyway, we've taken up enough of our own time. But please come back next week, watch us again, talk to us, party it up in the chat. Yep. Let's roll some dice. Nope, that doesn't work.
Later, y'all.
All right.